Hello, welcome into Steelers Now Postgame. I am Zachary Smith, joined by Alan Saunders from Paycor Stadium, where the Pittsburgh Steelers are victorious over the Cincinatti Bengals, 44-38, the final score there. Alan, first and foremost, Paycor Stadium. Why is that name in the stadium? That's my first gripe.
I don't know, man. It's better than Acrisure.
Okay, yeah, fair. But see, as somebody that really doesn't call it that, what was it called before though? What was the previous name?
Paul Brown Stadium.
That's right. Yep. There it is. All right, good stuff. Alan, first and foremost, I just want to talk on here, get some injury stuff out of the way. No clarity probably within that, but we saw Calvin Austin leave this game after taking a couple of massive hits, and this one was rolled out at one point during it was being looked at for a concussion. Really nothing, I'm assuming, post-game from Mike Tomlin other than that was the evaluation.
Yeah, that's really the only update there. And no real other major injuries, just Najee Harris was able to leave and come back. He blamed Pat Fryermuth's girlfriend for cooking too much good food, something about some kind of banana dessert, I guess.
Yeah, I already had a conversation with Jillian about this, so I have some coming my way. I had to
got him good. The dessert that is affecting your performance 3 days later, that's a dessert I need to try. I'm just going to say that. Obviously, Najee's joking, and I don't know what it was, but came up a little short there. Got taken care of, got back into the game. And Calvin Austin, man, dude, he got crushed. Two big hits in this game. Akeem Davis-Gaither on a DPI in the first play of the game, very early in the game, and then Cam Taylor-Britt late in the first half, and then did not return after that second hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, obviously want to dive into things on both sides of the ball here, but like first and foremost, what were just like your big picture takeaways from this thing? I see Norm having a comment here that I'm curious to get your thoughts on, because said I'm more happy with winning this way than if we would have won, say, 24-21. This proves the offense can hang with the big boys.
Yeah, I think that's my big takeaway here is that I expected, in fact, I think I exactly predicted the correct number of points for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is exactly what I expected out of this game with the Bengals offense on the field and the Steelers defense. This is exactly the game I saw. I did not think the Steelers offense could be this good, this efficient. Now, also, I didn't think the Bengals defense could be that bad, or that an NFL defense could be that bad, because they are terrible. But I thought the Steelers offense really finally looked like they were clicking on all cylinders in terms of they were efficient in the red zone. They got off to a fast start. They moved the ball at will whenever they wanted to, basically. The only things that ever got in the way were themselves, the turnover and a couple of penalties from George Pickens and some bad Mike Tomlin clock management. That was the only thing that ever slowed the Steelers offense down. The Bengals sure never did. It felt like every time they got the ball, they were going to score. Corliss Waitman didn't have a punt. He had that bad punt in the at the end of the Cleveland game. You want to get feeling and get feeling better. You want to get over that one. You have a punt until the fourth quarter of this one. Pretty incredible stuff from the Steelers offense. And I think that, to me, is the biggest takeaway, that I knew that they would have the opportunity to do that, because I did know how bad this Bengals defense has been playing. But I did not think they would be that effective, that efficient with the opportunities they got to not only keep pace with Burrow, Chase Higgins, and company, but outscore them in a pure shootout the way they did today.
Yeah, how much of this, the offensive performance, was just them taking what the Bengals would give to them seemingly at will? I mean, the middle of the field, the checkdowns that they were being given there. And I feel like for the first time in, 5-6 years, I thought like they had an effective screen game in this one as well.
The screen game, the check down were both huge. I thought the running game, even though they didn't go to it early, there was one point where Najee had like 5 carries for 69 yards or something like that. They weren't running a ton, but every time they did, they were gashing them. I just think, this is a bad defense, and I thought they attacked it thoughtfully at multiple levels, and they scored on big plays. Getting Calvin one-on-one against Mike Hilton and then send him deep, that's a mismatch. Although I think that was actually a busted coverage by the safety who crashed down on Fryermuth. It's hard for me to tell, but either way, we've seen them get Calvin loose. We've seen them get George loose. Now they added Fryermuth to the mix. I feel like we've talked about it, been waiting for it. When is he going to be a bigger part of the offense? Today it was. I thought they used the whole field more effectively than they've used. Like there was just a lot to like about this offensive performance from the Steelers.
Pat Fryermuth in Cincinnati, I think you literally had just put out a post shortly before we came on here. 4 catches for 40 yards in his rookie year, 5 catches, 75 yards, 9 catches for 120, and then today, 6 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown as well. So getting him heavily involved in the mix, and there's something about Cincinnati that he enjoys playing there. 10 different Steelers actually had a catch in this one. One was not Mike Williams, and Norm says, what happened to Mike Williams?
Yeah, I asked Pat Fryermuth, do you like Cincinnati? What do you like about Cincinnati? He goes, nothing. But apparently I like playing here. Yeah. Mike Williams started the game, got his first start as a Steeler, and then was the only eligible receiver that was dressed that was not targeted, I think, except for him and Connor Hayward were the only 2 eligibles who were not targeted by Russell Wilson in this game. I don't really know what to make of that other than, obviously when Calvin got hurt, that kind of opened some things up in some different ways for like Van and Skoranek coming out of the slot that obviously it's not going to open up for Mike Williams. So like that's how you get to 10 is you get somebody hurt, then you have multiple other somebody's replacing him. And same thing like Najee. If Najee doesn't leave the game, does Cordell Patterson get a catch? Probably not. So it's a sort of happenstance. But I don't know. It was just apparently not the matchup they were looking for with Mike Williams. They seemed to push the ball down the field to George, but they got the other sort of matchups they wanted on the inside. It was not a big outside of where, and even then, like a lot of Georgia stuff in this game was underneath. It wasn't it wasn't just the moon ball. Like this was a more varied passing offense. I think we had talked about would the Steelers, I thought the wins against Washington, the Jets, the Giants, they had done things one way. And then I thought even in the win over the Ravens and then the loss to the Browns, teams were attacking them differently. They were getting different looks as an offense, and they had not found the next counter punch. And I think they found it, although I guess you have to give the caveat of this is probably the worst pass defense in the league. But I did think schematically they found some different answers to some of those questions posed by the Ravens and the Browns. And that's going to be important because it's right back to Cleveland next week.
Well, I'm glad you said, that about schematically, because I wanted to go to Arthur Smith next. I mean, it seems like 10 days in between games is so long. Like they haven't had to wait so long to right that wrong from that Thursday night game. And over the course since that had happened, there's a lot of talk about Arthur Smith's performance in that game, thinking he wasn't very good. And then like the North Carolina stuff also hanging over for a little bit. Obviously, he has now said that he's not interested in pursuing that. Like they had an initial reach out call or whatever. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the game that he called today.
Maybe his best of the season. Like just when you consider all the factors, and also think about they give up a pick 6 on the first play of the game, get themselves in a hole, come right back like hot knife through butter, right back down the field. No hesitation, no lack of aggression. Even when they failed, they kick a field goal, but they're throwing passes. Like they never got stale, they never got stagnant. I thought it was a really really well called game by Arthur Smith. I mean, this was really good stuff from the Steelers offense all the way around. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was great.
Garrett pointing out something here with Broderick Jones. We talked a lot about Broderick Jones in a negative light for the better part of this year with the way that his penalties have kind of, shot the Steelers in the foot and ended drives. But Garrett mentions the way that he showed some leadership with going to GP after a couple of GP penalties. He seemed to be the first one over there to try to calm him down. I know that you mentioned as well, like, Cam Hayward as well. It's having a conversation with him. I was just saying there's a lot of positive things to take away from this game, but I have seen people in the comments talking about that. And then as well, Boston talking about concerned about Joey Porter Jr. So I guess we can go to that now before too many comments come in those passes by. So starting with George Pickens there with those couple penalties, as well as Broderick Jones, if you really had any takeaways about the leadership that he showed there.
Yeah, I thought that was big from Broderick. I think it's kind of like he's one of the guys that's known George on the team the longest. I think he's had his own struggles in that area, and so I think that makes his words mean some things. And I think it obviously also didn't work because he talked to them the first time, and then he went right back up there and did it again. So like points for the attempt, I guess, but I don't know that we can call it some kind of success. And then George talking after the game, I don't know. Does not sound like a guy with a lot of contrition. I mean, he said I can't hurt my team, but like it's certainly not like he was saying that like, oh, I can't do that, or he was saying the refs got it wrong, and whatever. I
Mhm.
great attempt. That's all I got there.
Great attempt. What about Joey Porter Jr.? You concerned? Which, by the way, for the most part, they did follow a plan that we had talked about. Like him being the
Yeah,
guy moving around with T. Higgins and saying, "Let's commit our other resources to Jamar Chase." There were certainly times where Joey got lined up on Jamar Chase, but largely saw a lot of T. Higgins in this one. But are you concerned about Joey Porter Jr.? What did he have? I mean, 4 called penalties today, probably I think 6 total when you include the ones that were declined. So is there a concern level from you?
yeah. I mean, I did like Joey on Higgins. I thought that was the matchup the Steelers should have tried for. They got it more often than not. I thought in general he did a pretty good job holding them down. I mean, the big play to Higgins on a third down is in like an ugly zone, where you're not going to put that on one guy. And then like the garbage time one, whatever. Um, and I honestly thought several of the penalties against Porter were awfully ticky tack. But the one that really stood out to me as egregiously bad was the DPI against Yoshivas in the back of the end zone. I mean, you got
Oh
to
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
it just showed a lack of awareness of what was happening on the play, where he was chasing, he was beat, and he just tackled him. And like, I don't think Yoshivas is catching that ball. I wouldn't have argued if the officials want to call it uncatchable, but like that's just such a bad play that like you're just begging them to bail you out with that call. More so than like, it's Porter certainly didn't know it was uncatchable. His head was down, running, chasing, tackling. Like, so why are you giving him that out? It was a bad play. That's one he can't make. The rest of them, I think you can kind of like live with. On the whole, it was a pretty ticky tack game. There were a lot of flags, but like,
Mhm. Really didn't
especially
like the
against those,
one that he took against Higgins that was on like the sideline on the Cincinnati side of the field. I don't know. They were around like the 20-yard line. They got a new set of. It was like a first down pass. They got obviously a new set of downs from it. But yeah, I didn't think that was a pass interference. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know
yeah, I
that I have a
didn't
level of
think.
concern going forward.
Yeah, the DPI in the end zone, the second DPI in the end zone, I didn't really like very much either as a call, but he also committed illegal contact.
Right.
Also, like those are two
Mhm.
really good receivers, and if you're taking like illegal contact penalties against them, like okay, like that, like it's gonna take
I
them a
mean,
long time to go down the field 5 yards at a time. Like I don't hate that mindset, but you can't do it in the end zone. Like that's the thing.
yeah,
I think there's
right.
got to be a better awareness there of when you can be aggressive and when you can't. If you want to jam a
Um,
guy 7 to 10 yards down the field every play of the game and say they may only call it like 2 or 3 times,
mhm.
I'm kind of good with that, especially against these guys.
I can't disagree with that mindset. I mean, it'd be interesting to see those conversations taking place, but also like, how often the officiating kind of has to be in place too, right? I mean, they're not going to call everything, so I guess it works out in the favor of the defender if they're going to literally commit illegal contact every single play. But tough game to watch. Anyways, Jim Pikarski, who's become a regular here, afternoon drive and morning rush. Big props to Herbig again with a big play. He really does just have a knack for making these splash plays, man. Another strip sack in this one, which was a turn for a touchdown by Payton Wilson. Like one play a game at the bare minimum. It seems like Nick Herbig is just impacting a game in this way. I don't know that I can say much more about him than I have.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good again. Again, I thought the downside of the Steelers' defense was not that they didn't get enough pressure. They did. They got to Burrow a good bit. They let him out of the pocket too often. I mean, he's not that elusive of a guy. if you can hold Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson in the pocket, you can hold Joe Burrow in the pocket. And I just thought they were a little bit sloppy in their rush lanes and giving him too many opportunities to step up and make a play. And that's what really I thought hurt them more than anything else was
Mhm.
the real backbreakers for this defense were Burrow buying a little time, stepping up, and then making a throw. That's the obvious area that they have to clean up going forward because Winston did the same thing to them last week. And so I think Herbig's part of that. I think getting Highsmith back will help. He's just a more experienced player, has a better sort of idea. But if Herbig's on the right side, like a lot of times those plays are coming to the left or going the other way. So I mean, I don't think it's all on him. But I need to mention that when you talk about the Steelers pass rush, which did get I think 4 sacks in this game, but probably not feeling great about their overall day despite those numbers.
Yeah. Cam Hayward again. I mean, he had the tip pass obviously on the Dante Jackson interception. He had a sack in this one, but constantly pushing the pocket, getting Burrow to the outside.
The best
Creating a ton
play
of
was
pressure.
the TFL on the next play after the Joey
Oh,
Porter
yeah. Yep.
DPF.
Oh, I mean, hey, was Chase Brown the back on that one, or was it Khalil?
Yes.
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown got hit by a runaway cement truck.
I mean, credit to him for holding on to the ball on that pop because that's like immediate.
Like a Looney Tunes character getting hit.
Yeah.
Like that
Mhm.
was unbelievable.
Hey, on the other end, I know that you spent a lot of time this week talking to players on the Steelers offensive line about Trey Hendrickson. I mean, there were a couple times where he got around Dan Moore and Russ did a nice job of stepping up and evading that pressure. Even the one sack that he took where he's just like slides down right behind the line of scrimmage where Hendrickson's behind him. But for the most part, they seem to have a good game plan for taking him out of this one and minimizing the impact. What did you think they did a nice job of doing with him there?
I thought the screen game and the quick passing was huge in that regard. They really did a nice job of identifying when the Bengals were going to blitz, getting everything sorted out, getting it blocked up, and then Russ was able to find open guys. I mean, this is an aggressive defense. They do blitz a lot, and I think the Steelers did a great job of attacking that. And then Russ got time. The biggest part I think of him being able to sit there and pick apart the cover two in a way that he has not yet was the time that he had. I thought Broderick Jones was really good. It's hard to really focus on the interior of the line, on live, but like I thought
Mhm.
when they got in space, Frazier, McCormick, and Jones were just a devastating threat. Like so many of those little screens, chips, checkdowns became big plays because those dudes were flying out there killing people. The Najee Harris touchdown,
Yeah.
Zach Frazier blocked someone to Kentucky, I think.
And
It
Sam
was,
Marlowe took 2 guys on his own. Yeah, on that
and he
pitch out.
blocked 2 guys. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that. This was the best. This was a get right performance for the Steelers' offensive line in a lot of ways, where they were not their best against Cleveland at all in any facet of the game, and they looked
Mhm.
pretty darn good out here today.
I wanted to Bob wants to bring up Mike Thomas, clock manager, right before the half. Didn't call a timeout. They lose some time there, and then calls it with 3 seconds just to kick the field goal right before half and go in. What did you make of that? He said if he calls the timeout sooner, they have 1 to 2 shots at the end zone instead of settling for the field goal. I put out a thought that I had, like the only justification I could see for it. You would like to know or trust Russell Wilson isn't going to take a sack there or put the ball in play with the clock running. Like it's got to be a shot to the end zone or throw out of bounds. But if for some reason a sack does happen, then you've already burned that last time out. Clock's going to run out before you have the ability to get the field goal unit on. Obviously, that's the only thing that I could think of. But what was your thought?
My thought was that Matt Eberflus thinks that there was plenty of time. That that
And
Eberflus was
hey,
just
listen,
like, yeah, you
he got fired. He's getting some parting shots, I guess, on his way out. But
he's still getting paid, whatever. I I don't understand. I mean, sometimes like honestly, Eberflus, you can kind of look at the intent and say, well, they did have lots of time. Like you would think
mhm,
they would be able to get to the line and get a playoff, and you understand why they didn't. Honestly, I feel like this makes even less sense. Like they had 12 seconds when I think it was Jalen Warren got tackled.
yeah,
Call a timeout. Like, yeah, you're taking 2, maybe 3 shots at the end zone there if they go quickly. And so, yeah, and honestly, 12 seconds, even if you throw like short and get tackled in bounds, as long as you're kind of in the middle, like it's not even impossible to get up and spike it in that, like as long as it's quick. Like if you're going quick, it's not
Yeah.
impossible to get up there and save the field goal at that point. So like I really think they should have called that timeout the second Jalen Warren was tackled. Or if you're not going to call that timeout the second Jalen Warren is tackled, don't make that throw. Like because that
Yeah.
was only 10 yards, like maybe not even 10 yards, maybe like
I
8
don't think it
yards,
was.
something like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if you're not going to call the timeout, then don't throw that pass. Like to me, that's the real, like it looked like Russ thought they were going to call timeout because why would he throw it if they weren't? Like that's the kind, and like the offensive line didn't even really do a good job of running. Like there are times when the offensive line knows in the huddle, hey, we're going to throw this up the middle. We need to get there so we can spike it. Like there's an effort for guys to get down the field quickly. And they didn't seem to have that urgency. It looked like the guys in the field thought they were going to call timeout too. And then when they didn't, it made it even worse. So it seems like they didn't communicate it properly. And I think that was a bad decision. And it cost
Yeah.
them, I mean, at least one shot and maybe 2 shots at 4 more points.
Darcy said TJ moving around a little bit. What were your thoughts on that when he did?
Didn't love it, to be honest. Thought he was better back on his side. That was my
I
first
don't know.
sort of.
Yeah, I was saying,
I'll
I
have to
like
look
without going back
closer.
and watching how the reps went. Yeah, exactly. Watch how the reps went for him. Yeah, I can't necessarily disagree. I don't mind them doing it like once or twice, I guess, just to throw a different look at them. But yeah, like you and Derek said, like he's comfortable there. It's more about having other guys win consistently if that's going to be the case with how much attention he's going to take away. So yeah, I don't know how many
I
reps
thought
he had away from that side, but
I thought they did a really nice job of mixing in some blitzes. Um, that was an improvement, I thought. Patrick Queen would have had a sack. He got just form tackled on the one play.
mhm.
I thought they did a nice job of mixing in a couple blitzes. There were still some times where they were just very soft, I guess is the word I want to use on defense, where it was very basic stuff for a lot of this game, but they were up 2, 3 scores for a lot of it too. So I
Mhm.
don't know. I thought like the 3rd and 31 or whatever the hell, well, 3rd and 21, they give up 31
And
yards.
21. Yeah.
That just can't happen. That
Right.
there were like 8 things in this game that can't happen. That if the Steelers were not playing a team that's massively dysfunctional, despite its overwhelming talent, it probably would have cost them. And they're pretty fortunate that they didn't. You can put the clock management in there. You can put the 2 uh, Pickens penalties in there. You can put that 3rd and 21 in there. You can put the whole drive leading up to the Higgins touchdown at the end in there. My goodness, they didn't play any defense.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there were a lot of things like it's weird to say you score 44 points and you beat your division rival on the road. You should feel pretty good about that, but there's like a lot to clean up from this game, especially all over the defense.
Yeah, and I think they'll certainly feel that way. I mean, a team that takes so much pride on that side of the football, especially, and this group has been so good for the better part of this year. Now we knew the offensive challenge that they were facing; they knew that as well. But I don't think that they're going to want to use that as an excuse. Bob here was talking about Russ's ability to throw away the ball in the red zone, but when he said red zone, it just made me think: what do you think was different that they were actually able to? One thing that we talked about, obviously, was their ability to not punch it in the red zone so far this year, settling for 3 as opposed to getting 7. They were able to get 7 plenty of times today, obviously. But what was the reason, if anything, that you feel like that was it more about how bad Cincinnati is? Was there something that the Steelers did really well when they got in the red zone they hadn't been doing, or where were you at with that?
Well, they scored from outside the red zone, which is a really good way to be rid of your red zone woes, is to score on big plays. I thought they ran the ball more
Yeah,
effectively
that's true.
in the red zone, whether they scored on it or not. I thought they ran the ball more effectively. I think it was all about the push up front on the offensive line. Like they really got a push that they have not been getting. Now, look, this is a Cincinnati team that's not very good against the run. They haven't been good against the run all year. They're missing Sheldon Rankins. Chris Jenkins gets hurt early. They're missing Logan Wilson, who's their leading tackler. Like you should be able to get a push against them. But I thought that was the
Mhm.
biggest difference for them once they got inside the red zone.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at it now. Yeah, the George Pickens touchdown was 17 yards out on a screen, and then obviously the Najee Harris touchdown run. But outside that, the touchdowns came from outside of the red zone. So um, certainly a good point there. But Russ in this game goes over 400 passing yards, 414 to be exact. New Steelers quarterback high, breaking Ben Roethlisberger's record from 2005. What do you think that Russ did so well in this one? Again, was it more so just taking what the Cincinnati defense gave them, or why did we see the play that we did 10 days ago from Cleveland now to this level here on Sunday?
You said that's a Steelers record?
Yeah. Most passing yards against the Bengals specifically.
Oh, against the Bengals. Okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say
yeah.
I thought Ben had like some 500-yard game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Specifically
uh,
against Cincinnati, it was like 2005.
yeah,
Ben
okay.
had 390 or something. Yeah.
Second most of Russ's career. He had 452 against the Houston Texans in 2017. I just thought it's a really bad secondary. They kept throwing because they had to, because it kept being a game. Like it was just, going back to the very first point, the first commenter made, like this was just going to be a shootout. It was always going to be a shootout. It looked like it was going to be a shootout coming in. Then the first 5 minutes of the game happens. You're like, oh, now it's definitely a shootout, and they lived in it. They were not afraid of it. It's not the way they really want to play, but they played it just fine. And I think Russ gets a lot of credit for that because he's the guy getting it together. And I think they did a really nice job of it.
Yeah. Payton Wilson, a guy, if you go back to our conversations preseason about him, we were, tempering fans' expectations because of the amount of playing time that we thought he would or wouldn't get. What do we make of his play so far this season? Have we seen progress? I mean, certainly have seen progression, obviously, because rookies come in very terrible as football players. But what have you seen from Payton Wilson from the beginning of the year to now?
I think he just keeps getting better. I think you see the the hamster wheel turning a little faster on the field. Like the reaction time is quicker. He's not making as many mistakes, and so like honestly, he played a lot in this game. I don't know how much. I haven't seen the snap count yet, but like this was a big workload for him, and I think he probably had his best game outside of the splash because recovering a fumble's basically luck anyway. But like, I just thought he was everywhere, and he was making good plays in coverage. And Chase Brown got him in the run game a little bit, but did not have this sort of incredible receiving game that he is capable of. And so I think Wilson had a really really good game. I think the Steelers showed on defense that they can play a different way too. Like they didn't use Beanie Bishop hardly at all today. It was all Wilson and Cam Sutton. Like they just said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like this was the first time I think this year where you could see the Steelers go into a game saying, hey, same old isn't going to get it done. We got to try something else here. And obviously there's a lot to critique when you give up 38, but I just appreciate the mindset of coming into this game knowing it's got to be more than what we've been doing. It's got to be different than what we've been doing. Okay, how do you want to draw it up? And taking that risk to do stuff that you haven't been doing. And I think it worked out pretty well for the most part, those changes. The overall defense, I mean, you can nitpick about a lot of things, but I thought leaning on Cam Sutton and Payton Wilson turned out to be good moves.
Yeah, absolutely. Does it surprise you how much he's played?
No, it's pretty much exactly what I thought we'd get.
Okay. Also, Bob mentioned Orlando Brown, moving early on those snaps. What do we make of that? Do you have a take on that? Why when they're deciding to call that and when they're deciding not to call that?
No, it seems like it's been very random. I thought this was a pretty poorly officiated game overall. I kind of understand the first no call on the Pickens Cam Taylor Britt play. He falls forward, his head's in the guy's chest. I didn't see a replay that showed his fingers under the helmet. If there was one, then it should have been hands in the face. But I mean,
I think that's what Gene Steratore was saying that should have been called was illegal hands to the face.
Yeah,
obviously, it was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, obviously, but he was saying it should be legal hands.
Yeah. But like I just thought it was really inconsistently officiated game overall, and those are hard to deal with. But yeah, I thought like the fourth down false start on Cincinnati should have been on Landon Roberts. Like they're just I don't know. Like there was a lot of if you want to nitpick the officiating, there was a lot going on here. I just did not think it was very good in general. But
man, I mean, as far as games that you've covered, like with the amount of points that were scored, obviously that makes it a longer game in general, and then you like factor in the flags and stuff. What like to cover a game like that? What was that? I mean, you've obviously probably covered similar games, but what was that experience like?
It's just long. Just get it over with. Like I'm like I got a 5-hour drive home after this. Like, come on, like
right.
skit go. Like I don't like high scoring games in general, but yeah, the endless flags in the fourth quarter were not helping matters.
I feel like this was certainly one, if you're not a fan of either of these teams and just like wanted to sit down and watch a game that had literally everything, this was one to watch. I mean, you got a defensive score from both sides. Obviously, the amount of points that were scored in general. Yeah, you could do without the flag, sure. But like a lot of fireworks in this one, had a little bit of everything.
This is one of those games where like the 10-minute condensed game is going to be fire. But like sitting through the entire 4 hours, there were a lot of moments where you're like, what the hell is going on?
Absolutely. Before we get out of here, anything else that we haven't touched on yet from this game that you're like, we got to make sure we talk about this?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to write about. I'm going to write about the Steelers offense being able to win a shootout. I think that is the most important takeaway for the way this team goes forward. And I think the turning point was the second drive of the game. Give up the pick six. You go 3 and out and punt there. Things could get ugly real fast. Hot knife through butter, right back down the field, score a touchdown. Okay, it's going to be this kind of game, but we're right here in it. And I thought that meant a lot. And probably read about Pat and how that has been the missing piece of this offense that I think we finally found here. Or maybe he's just only really good in Cincinnati, and next week back in Pittsburgh, he's just going to turn back into a pumpkin. And I got to get me some of his girlfriend's Thanksgiving dessert pronto. That's the big story out of this game for me.
And she wouldn't even tell me what it was. She was like, yeah, it's banana something. Like, so not an official name or anything like that. I just know it's banana flavored, but I was promised some. So
we did the Russ Danger Witch review. Yeah. And that was very well received here on the YouTube platform. I'm just saying, Jillian, I would be willing for the greater good to try it.
Absolutely.
Just throwing that out there.
I'm sending the text to Jillian immediately upon the end of this live stream. Appreciate you guys joining the live chat. Obviously, if you're watching back, be sure to leave us a comment as well about your thoughts on the game. DB was correct on his prediction for the Steelers to win this one, Alan. That's all I'm saying.
I think he got his bold prediction too, didn't he? Did he have a TJ strip sack?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. Dang. Shout out to DB. I see why you guys like him so much now. But anyway, before we get out of here, of course, tell the people where they can find you other than on your way back from Cincinnati / Kentucky.
Yeah, on Interstate 70, talking trash on all the Ohio drivers because they suck and I hate them. At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now, the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words. So I can get paid, check out all the stuff from me. Aaron Becker's here with me over there in the press box, and lots of stuff coming from Chris Ward and DB back at home as well. Don't miss it.
There we go. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you were here on YouTube. Like I said, hit us in the comments. Even if you're watching back and weren't part of the live chat, we still want your thoughts on the game. If you're listening somewhere else, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there, whether that's Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. You'll find us there. You can find us on TikTok, literally everything. You'll find us everywhere. And you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders, and myself. Thanks for tuning in to another Steelers Now post game, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.